This episode is brought to you by Ariston Specialties in Bloomfield, Connecticut, makers of amazing olive oils and other Greek delights. Check them out online at aristonspecialties.com. That's Ariston, Ariston, specialties.com. Welcome to the Food Schmooze podcast. Find us at faithmiddleton.com. My food buddies are here, and we're going to get into Hanukkah and Christmas meals. Joining me, Chris Prosperi of Metro Beast in Simsbury, Connecticut, Carl Franklin, our editor and keto expert, and Joanne Church in New London. Plus, my dog Bon Bon, he's curled up in his bed at my feet, as always. Yeah. Now, if you celebrate Hanukkah starting December 18th, did you know, or maybe if you don't celebrate it, did you know that jelly donuts are among the special treats of this holiday? How great is that? I mean, how could you skip this holiday? It's enough to make me absolutely pretend I'm Jewish.
What is the religious or spiritual significance of jelly donuts, I wonder?
Joanne, tell us.
The reason we enjoy jelly donuts during this Jewish holiday is because the holiday of Hanukkah is about the small jar of oil that miraculously lasted for 8 days. So that's why frying foods in oil commemorates that miracle.
Okay, cool.
So let's get into it. What are you thinking about the plans for Christmas Eve? Let's say, Chris, what will you make?
Oh, well, for Christmas, my family always does goose. But for the last few years, it's been harder and harder to come by. And if you do find one, they can be astronomically expensive. So we switch, or I should say my mom switched a couple of years ago, and we do roast duck. So for the same price of one goose, my mom gets 2 or 3 ducks, and they're decent size, like, 5 to 6 pounds a piece. And she does it the old traditional way where you put your oven down low, not too low, but like 275, 300, and you slow roast the duck, and all the fat renders out, and the skin gets crispy, and the meat gets tender, and oh my God, it is so yummy. I can't even tell you. And it's funny because I don't miss the goose. The duck has better flavor, more meat, and I just like it so much better. But the goose was so traditional that we did it, since we were kids.
Yeah. Oh boy, that duck. Hey, you know how Ina Garten does the same thing with getting the fat out of her duck? She puts on a big pot of boiling water and then slips the duck into the boiling water, and the fat all renders out. And then she takes it out and starts roasting it. I thought that was a really smart thing to do too.
So because the fat rises to the top and she skims it off, is that it?
Yeah, and you want to save all that fat.
Wow.
Yeah.
My mom will use that all during January and February to fry everything from potatoes to just sauteing some onions to frying some eggs. I mean, the can of it just sits on the stove, and you basically just scoop it out into the pan. It's even better than having the duck or the goose is having the leftover duck and goose fat.
So I know that chicken fat is called schmaltz.
Yes.
But what is goose and duck fat
called?
Called?
That's just so much better. Schmaltz times 10. Schmaltz plus.
And what about Carl? What's your tradition?
So my tradition is to do a smoked rib roast. Yes, I know. It's nice. I have a Traeger smoker. It's a pellet smoker.
Oh, I never even heard of a pellet smoker.
Yeah, you use wood pellets, and it has a hopper, and it keeps the temperature pretty constant.
Wow. Is that like the pellets that you would use in a pellet stove kind of thing?
Yeah, but they're food grade.
They're food grade. Okay.
You can get them at Home Depot or any kind of hardware store.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so basically what I do is I follow the Traeger slow smoked and roasted prime rib recipe. And I'll link to that. However, they have a 2-step process. They first set the temp to 250, which I do. And I prepare the rib roast the way they say. It's kosher salt, black pepper, chopped thyme leaves, chopped rosemary leaves, and you just rub that all over. And then you want to put a thermometer inside, right in the middle, and wait until it reaches 120
Yep.
Fahrenheit.
Rare.
Yeah, it's before rare. Yeah, so that's about 4 hours.
Nice.
Now, what they say is to rest it for 20 minutes and then crank the heat. But I don't do that. What I do is I wrap it in butcher paper at 120 and then a couple of towels, like really contain the heat.
Yeah.
And then I wait a few hours and it will naturally rise. The temperature will naturally rise at least 10 degrees.
While it's resting.
While it's resting. So you get the benefit of resting.
That's genius.
And the
Where did you come up with that?
It was quite an accident. I just left it off the heat, and I was early for dinner.
How do you make that accident?
And my kids were coming over, and it was done too early, so I just waited, and then I was like,
turn it off, let it sit in there.
Yeah, I'll let it sit, but I had the probe in there, and sure enough, when they were there, it was like 130, 132, and I'm like, score!
Perfect.
So a couple hours later, it just came up to temp.
And now you do that every year.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Joanne Church, you over there. What are you into on either Hanukkah or Christmas Eve or both?
We don't have a tradition, but I think one of the best meals we made 2 years ago, and for the first time, was beef Wellington.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really fun to make, and we got a beautiful, like 3-pound boneless beef fillet at Scott's Meats and Deli in East Lyme.
Love that place.
It's so great. It's fabulous. And it's puff pastry and mushrooms. Like, how can you go wrong? So, and some shallots, garlic, and you put the mushrooms, shallots, garlic in a food processor, then put that in a saute pan for like 8 minutes. You sear the meat, and then you just roll out the pastry so it's bigger, longer than the meat, than the beef fillet. And you paste on the cooked mushrooms and put the beef in the middle, roll it. It's so good. This was like 3 pounds of meat between 2 people, and we thought we're going to freeze it. It was gone in 3 days.
Wellington sandwiches, anyone?
We were shocked. Oh, yeah, and you have to bake it. But now, here's what's so interesting. We're having friends that are vegan. So there's a vegan Wellington, which it's like 7 pages long, this recipe. So I won't be able to speak about it until I make it. But it's so interesting because you're using beet root that's cooked, of course, and smoked tofu. And you put that in a food processor with some herbs and spices. And then you roll it in a log and then basically do the same thing with the pastry and the mushrooms.
Wow.
But you have to get vegan pastry, which is a little
no
hard
butter.
to find, but I found
Right.
it, with like 3 ingredients. And then I realized it wasn't puff pastries. But so I'm glad I'm starting a little early. They're like, no butter. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's going to be like, I've got
Saute those mushrooms in olive oil.
like an hour preparation time. And when the recipe says an hour, you know it's going to be more than an hour.
Sure.
But I thought, I can't wait. But then I think it's funny that they want it to look like meat.
Yeah.
So I'll be right back and tell you what I'm into for my tradition, which is Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And right now we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. It's the Food Schmooze. We're at faithmiddleton.com, and I'm with the All-Stars, Chris Prosperi, Joanne Church, Carl Franklin. And so on Christmas Eve, my tradition, and Christmas Day, it doesn't matter which, I guess mostly Christmas Eve. This year, I am just dying. The 7 fishes tradition.
Yes,
Look
thank
at that.
you.
Where's our Italian?
You're welcome. I know. This is when I've become a fake Italian.
Good.
I want clams and linguine. I want
Love
that the
it.
most of anything. And I want, Chris's beef Wellington. Remember, Chris, you made that? We made it when we went to do a show somewhere. I forget where.
Yeah.
And you made it, and it was
Wellington.
the
So good.
most phenomenal thing. It was so, so good. I love beef Wellington, but I will admit that's a lot to have, beef Wellington plus clams and linguine. So I do want a little meat in there. So I'll have to figure something out because I don't think that's going to go with my clams and linguine. Or I could do clams
Bacon
and
in
linguine.
the clams and linguine will work for you.
I got it. A clams and linguine Wellington.
Oh, yeah,
You just get
yeah.
crazy.
Well, what are we here for? It's like- okay. Anybody got any? What about anybody? What are your side dishes for the upcoming holidays?
Oh, you know what I have? This is a tradition we always do the day before. So either Christmas Eve or even the day before Christmas Eve if family's around. And it's a big tradition on my mom's side of the family. And it's doing these, and everyone's doing it now, but we've been doing it since we were kids, is these charcuterie platters. These like not deli meats, but fancy like smoked meats and sausages and like prosciuttos and serrano ham. And it's simple to do. It's more arranging than cooking, but you get a lot of bang for your buck because you don't do a lot, right? A little goes a long way, but it looks amazing. And you just slice up some bread. We usually serve the little cornichon pickles with it and some olives and maybe some fig and maybe
How about Parmigiano Reggiano cheese?
Sure, or Taleggio, one of those Italian cheeses. Yes, and then it's not a lot of work for anyone. It can be done ahead of time. You put it on a platter, you wrap it in plastic, you put it in the fridge, and when people come, you just put it out on the table with some fresh sliced baguette, and it's just like a grazing kind of thing. And it's just, like I said, it's just, and you see it everywhere. We even have stores around here in the Hartford area that do them for you. So you could just walk in and say, look, we're having 8 people. Can I get a charcuterie platter, for 8? And they put it on these like wood boards, that you can buy. And again, just a fun way to get people, to feed people and not do a lot of work.
So, Chris, Thames Greenery in New London, you can bring your own plate or wooden platter or whatever you want, and they'll decorate it.
See?
Or get it
That's
in.
even better.
Yeah, even better.
It's
So
a
you
great
don't have to
place.
do anything. Just put it right out on your table.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, did any of you, because we missed a couple of weeks there before Thanksgiving, did any of you have anything different that you did this year? Because now it's after Thanksgiving. I did some turkey that was to die for, a completely new way.
A new way of turkey. I've done turkey for so many years. I don't know if there's, I can't even imagine what a new way is.
All right. So, I'm kind of into the whole sous vide thing, which is cooking under vacuum in a sealed, airtight. Yeah.
Controlled
So what
temperature.
I did was I cut the breast off the turkey raw, and then I put it in a sous vide bag, right, with butter and herbs and salt, and sealed it. And I put it 135 for 2 hours, which is my general sous vide temperature, because I want it medium rare for 2 hours. So here's the thing. People think, oh my God, turkey, you're going to get trichinosis. Has to be 165 degrees.
Oh, that's
otherwise
salmonella.
Or salmonella. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, trichinosis is old pork, right? Yeah. Salmonella. So, but if you cook it at 130 degrees for an hour, that's just as good.
That's the same thing.
It's the same thing. After an hour, that bacteria is dead. So what I did was I cooked it for 2 hours on only to 135. And when that came out, it was the softest, most tender turkey that you've ever eaten in your life. When you sliced it, like you could make turkey sandwiches, it just melts in your mouth. And I've never had such a delicate, tender turkey breast ever.
Yeah, it's that slow cooking that does it every single time. We're always in a rush to cook things, and we always cook things at such high heat.
Yeah.
Why? I get so hungry when we do this show every time. It's like, this is ridiculous.
Sorry.
I think this show has made me gain 30 pounds. It's like...
All right, so I always do something with the leftovers because I always make too much. It's just a curse I have. Whenever I cook anything, I always make too much. Anyway, so I had a lot of mashed potatoes left over this year, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do with leftover mashed potatoes? You know, I've done shepherd's pie, I've done all that stuff. And I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And I don't know where this came from, but I decided to make a quiche with mashed potatoes. So I took a cup of mashed potatoes and I took my regular quiche mixture, which is eggs and cream and a little bit of salt, and that's it, right? That's your base to your quiche. Yeah. And then I took all my leftovers. I had some Brussels sprouts, some carrots, some, of course, chopped up turkey meat, right? And I laid that in, and I had some pearled onions with the little, with the cream sauce, and I put that in the quiche shell. And of course, Faith knows this about me. Maybe you guys don't. I can't make pie dough to save my life. I have tried 1,000 times, and I'm never trying again because I just go to the store now and buy it. So anyway, I bought a shell already made.
You have a good trick, though, before you go on, Chris,
yes.
where you take the store-bought pastry and he takes a rolling pin and he rolls it out so that it's very, very thin. And that way everybody thinks it's homemade.
And it still stays flaky. Yeah, and I make the edges, I scallop the edges roughly. So so anyway, pre-bake your pie shell. And then I whipped the egg and the cream, and then I whipped in these mashed potatoes so they became part of this mixture, right? And it was a little thicker, so it took a while to settle in there. And then I topped it with, I think I did Gruyere cheese, a little parsley on top, threw it in the oven, 350 for about 16 minutes, and oh my God.
Really?
No, seriously.
Was it incredible?
And then to top it off, I had a little cranberry sauce left over, so I dolloped every piece with a little cranberry sauce. And I don't know, usually the leftovers are my favorite part, and this year is no different. That quiche, the mashed potatoes just did something to that quiche that I still can't explain. It was soft. The custard was soft, yet almost like pillowy in when you bit into it, like biting into a pillow. Yeah, it was heaven. And with the turkey and the Brussels sprouts and the carrots and the onions, it was just a killer way to use leftovers.
Wow. Very good.
Yum. Who makes their own eggnog?
Ooh.
Oh, so the Puerto Rican culture has the best eggnog on the planet. It's called Coquito.
Coquito.
Yes,
it's unreal.
I've heard you talk about that.
It's unreal. And they have a contest in New Haven where, all the people are making it and competing with each other. And they brought it on the show once, and it was so phenomenal. I just couldn't believe it because it doesn't have that sort of too sweet, too thick, too much cream kind of feel to it. Oh God, it's just incredible.
So good.
Too much bourbon.
What is this too much bourbon you speak of?
I wish we had done more with Hanukkah, the meal for Hanukkah. I guess, I love pot roast, so I'd be whipping out the pot roast again. And maybe I will for this Hanukkah season. I don't know. We'll see.
Or a brisket, right? Oh.
I know.
Oh, yes, brisket. Oh, my God. All right, we should run. Oh, I was going to say also that the night before Christmas Eve, we do a restaurant. We don't cook a thing, because we've been
I'll vote for that.
Preparing. Yeah. Okay. We're going to run. My dog Bonbon says goodbye, and we'll be back next week,
Bye,
as always, with the Food Schmooze at faithmiddleton.com.